So I wanted to quickly go through this week's lab and show you what is going on exactly and what you're expected of. It is similar to last week's lab in that there are discussions, so be aware of that, and there are deadlines before Sunday where you have to submit on Thursday. Let's just scroll down and see. Once again, with COVID and stress, I hope you're doing well. Please reach out to me if you have the need to. So we're down here. We've made it to the bottom, Lab 10 about climate change. So let's click into that. Our last online module. So you're likely aware of climate change by now in the media, in class. And they give a very simple definition, which I think is very good and non-political. I think that climate change is a directional change in climate over time. So that's not saying anything necessarily outrageous. It's just saying that climate is shifting over time in a way that we can actually observe it and that it's unusual. We have to have a way to see if that's unusual or not. Regardless, our activity, such as releasing carbon dioxide from these fossil fuels, have been major factors in global warming. So there are many different sources of carbon throughout the world. And as humans, we have unfortunately initiated the exchange of carbon between fuels and the environment. So on land, photosynthesis and respiration are the main processes that the carbon cycle is going through. All right, so ideally we would like to have less fossil fuels. We want more renewable resources, and we want to reduce the levels of climate change, okay? What will you do in this lab? So you're gonna learn about ice core data and how that relates to climate change. Ocean temperatures and coral bleaching. You've probably heard a lot about this. What is that? Hot oceans and white corals? What? Yeah, you'll learn. It's weird. Evaluate how the temperatures have changed over time, create graphs, talk to each other about your graphs, look at the northern and southern hemispheres, discuss the impacts. So that's quite a lot of things to do. But you guys, I have faith in you that you will generate great discussion and get through this lab and do well. Okay, so that's quite a bit of things. But let's look at the northern and southern hemispheres quickly. I did review this video here before making this, and think about this, especially the orientation of the Earth itself, how it is spinning on an axis, the angle of the Earth, the orientation, and the orbit, and how that can influence all of these different things, such as how much sun each hemisphere is getting, the seasons, all of that good stuff. All right. So you do have some pre-lab activities. You have some things to read. You can read about coral bleaching here. You can also read Chang et al.'s paper, How Fast Are the Oceans Warming? You can also read this supplementary material about ocean acidification and its contribution to coral bleaching. You can watch this video as well, which will prepare you for the quiz. All of these materials will prepare you for this quiz, which is honestly a bit tougher than I expected. So I would definitely pay attention, potentially even make notes during this video, as this quiz goes into quite a bit of detail. So you'll watch this ice core video, this climate change video. It's 10 minutes long. The instructor goes into a lot of things, discussing carbon flux, the carbon cycle, how it changes, how since the Industrial Revolution occurred, we have highly increased in the amount of carbon dioxide we have. And she also discusses the different types of greenhouse gases. So those greenhouse gases that she mentions include carbon dioxide, water, nitrous oxide, and methane. All right. So she talks about the greenhouse effect as well, how these gases do keep us warm. They keep heat trapped in the atmosphere, but how, of course, that can be a good and a bad thing. So it's a pretty good video. But the quiz, I will tell you, does go into a bit of detail. So there are 3 parts to the lab activities themselves. You'll want to analyze metadata on sea surface temperature to look for trends. So let's click into part 1. And it brings up lab 10, where you will be looking at different metadata. Okay? Metadata is really important, and it's essentially just data about your data. Very dry, I'm sure. So where was the data collected? When? What was the temperature outside? Who was it collected by? Where was it collected? This is all extremely important data, and it's often overlooked. So metadata is very important. You have a data sheet provided for you, and you want to click on that data. So I already have that pulled up. I'm gonna have to do a new share screen. I have so many things pulled on. Okay. All right. So if you click into that Excel, here is what will show up. Hopefully you're seeing an Excel sheet. If not, this is an Excel sheet that has 2 tabs: land, ocean, temp, raw data, and metadata. So the first sheet is the metadata. It explains what every column header means. For here, like year, you should probably know what that means. But what is glob? In him, shim, 44s to 24s. Well, some sort of latitudinal thing probably, but let's go ahead and see what this large data set, what does this mean? Well, thankfully we have the metadata to do so. So this says where this came from, where it was provided. So this is temperature anomaly data, for an average of that. So it's important to have an average from 1951 to 1980. So here are all of the different variables explained. So this is the metadata, or the data about the data, that you need in order to understand what the next page means. So the year, glob, means the mean global temperature anomalies. And these are the mean temperature anomalies for different regions. So I've put those in bold if you need to pause this at any time to see what it's referring to. Okay. So I'm going to reshare the other screen, which is right here. Great. Hopefully we are back to the student view of BSC here. All right, and we're going to go back once again so we can see assignment 2. Okay, so part 2 wants you to formulate a hypothesis. This is part of the group discussion. This is working with that Excel once again. It wants you to, in a group, I want you all to work together as best as you can. Try to be responsive. I understand you're all under a lot of stress and doing many other things. You want to, create one hypothesis for the differences in the anomalies seen between northern and southern hemisphere that you can test with these latitudinal zone data. And then it just shows, goes on to show you how to make, the best graph. And you want to make sure you fill out 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay. Your initial post is due by Thursday for this, for part 2. And all of the instructions are clearly given within that module. Let's go back to part 3. So in a group, you're going to compare and contrast these different temperature anomalies across different latitudinal zones. So that's where the metadata descriptions will come in helpful. because you'll understand what those weird, obscure number letter combinations are. Okay. So you want to have this graph created, and your group will submit this all as one PDF. Hopefully you can find the best way to divvy that work up. And here is a rubric for proper and full points. So please refer to this when turning in and creating your final graph. This is the rubric we are supposed to use to grade it by. Okay, if you stick with that, you should be good. One last thing is that you have a climate change post-lab quiz, and it does regard coral bleaching. So I do want to talk a little bit about that here back home. Coral is an amazing example of a symbiotic relationship. And what we have here is that coral and zooxanthellae live together as one. So the zooxanthellae live within the tissues of the coral stomach, intakes water and CO2, outputs oxygen, sugars, lipids. So it's kind of a great buddy to have hanging around, especially during these times when we need food. So their buddies won't hang around all the time if conditions are not right. So these zooxanthellae are photosynthetic algae that form this symbiotic relationship with corals and coral reefs. And they live within the tissues, but they will leave if it gets too hot or conditions are not right for them to grow there. Sorry, we'll get to that. So if conditions are not right for them to live there, they could leave. So when you do have this is the late 1800s with kind of more basic water. You see it's become more acidic, or is projected to be more acidic, and already is. As the acidity increases, so does the amount, of course, of carbon dioxide going in, and we have an increased amount of carbonic acid being created, free hydrogen ions, and we have less carbonate ions available for healthy corals, and they really need these carbonate ions broken down for their use. All right. In Florida, we have reefs, but they are very, very reduced, and I believe that roughly 10% are living. Coral bleaching happens when these die. These zooxanthellae can sometimes die or leave the coral, and the coral instead becomes white, and you see just straight through it. It's translucent, and instead of seeing a beautiful array of colors and things living together like this, you see a white patch of weird things that it's bad. Bleaching is bad. Okay. So that's in one of the videos, one of the last things I want to say, the instructor talks about this CO2 data. So this data has been collected for a super long time, and I've learned about it in every science class I think I've ever had. So this is the Mauna Loa Observatory, where they have been taking atmospheric CO2 observations for this long period of time. And remember, this is not trying to be a what is it? Yeah, right now we're just talking about climate change. It's just change in climate over time. And we see here that that is definitely occurring. In this average line, the parts per million of carbon are increasing at a really large pace. Okay, So with that being said, I want you all to please contact me with any questions that you have about any previous labs, about this lab, you're worried about how the rest of the lab's going to go, just send me an email and we can talk about it. But you all are doing so well and have responded so well, and I greatly appreciate that. So with that being said, I will make another video if needed, if this is not good, but I will leave it at that, and have a great week.